Imagine this. You're in a room full of strangers, each wearing a smile, each hiding a dagger. Everyone claims to chase success, but only a few truly catch it. You watch the ones who play fair stumble, hesitate, get passed over, and then, without fail, it's the liars, the manipulators, the cold-blooded tacticians who rise again and again. You're forced to ask yourself something most people are too frightened to whisper. Is the world secretly built for the worst among us? It's a question that echoes through history. From the thrones of ancient emperors to the boardrooms of billionaires, the same face keeps showing up. Ambitious, ruthless, unapologetic. Look closer, and you'll see that this isn't an anomaly. It's a pattern, a mechanism etched into the marrow of civilization. It defies our bedtime stories, contradicts our teachers, and laughs in the face of our morality. And yet, it works. But why? To understand this, we must dive into a realm where myth and psychology collide, where survival instincts are clothed in suits and speeches, and morality isn't a virtue, but a strategy. Here, power is not earned, it is taken. And those who hesitate, those waiting for justice, are already defeated. It is not the good who rule the world, it is the bold. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this long before you were born. He saw through the comforting illusion of good versus evil and named what others feared too. Two moralities govern the world. One belongs to the rulers, the creators, the conquerors. He called it master morality. The other, slave morality, for the obedient, the resentful, the broken. Master morality worships strength, courage, and action. Slave morality praises humility, guilt, and patience. Now, which of these do you think builds empires? Picture two men on a battlefield. One moves first, fast, decisive, fierce. The other waits, hoping for fairness, seeking signs. One survives. One becomes a story told in past tense. Now multiply this scenario across politics, war, business, and love. The result is always the same. The world doesn't wait for the kind-hearted. It follows those who do not ask for permission. But here lies the real horror. Morality has been weaponized by the weak. Slave morality wasn't born from truth. It was born from necessity, from those too powerless to fight, who decided to reshape the definition of good to justify their survival. And in doing so, they poisoned strength with shame. They turned power into something to fear. Do you see the irony? This moral illusion has infected society, culture, and even your dreams. From the stories you were told as a child to the rules you follow at work, everything whispers the same lie. Be good, and good things will happen. But reality whispers something else. Be strong, or you will be devoured. Still, ruthlessness alone does not ensure survival. History teaches another cruel truth. The same forces that lift the ruthless up can just as easily tear them down. Tyrants rise fast, but fall faster. CEOs build empires and then lose them to a single misstep. The question isn't just, why do the worst rise? The better question is, why do they fall? And what separates those who rule for a moment from those who rule for a generation? That answer lies beyond mere manipulation. It demands a shift from playing the game to understanding the game, from acting like a predator to becoming something entirely different. Nietzsche offered this idea in the form of the Übermensch, the overman, a figure not bound by guilt or convention, but elevated by self-mastery, vision, and creative power. You've seen glimpses of the Übermensch in leaders who inspire without demanding, who break rules not out of rebellion, but to write better ones. They are not cruel, they are dangerous, because they cannot be controlled. Their power does not come from the destruction of others, but from the transcendence of themselves. And this leads us to a final question that gnaws at the edges of the soul. If the worst people rise, is it because they are strong, or because the rest of us refuse to become stronger? But before you answer that, look around. The world you live in did not come from fairness. It was built by those who were willing to take it. Now ask yourself, are you? Imagine you're walking through a silent forest. No birds sing, no wind stirs, just the eerie sensation that something is watching you. A predator. You can't see it, but it's there, calculating, patient, always one step ahead. That, dear spectator, is what power looks like in its rawest form, not loud, not boastful, but silently, decisively dominant. Modern society is infested with predators like these. They wear suits instead of fur, speak in boardrooms rather than battlefields, but the instincts? Identical. They do not wonder if they deserve power. They take it. And they do so because they've evolved not just to survive, but to win. Psychologists have long studied the traits of high-performing individuals. The findings are uncomfortable. The most successful people in hyper-competitive environments, be it business, politics, or warfare, tend to share similar psychological patterns: high ambition, low neuroticism, strategic detachment from emotion, and perhaps most controversially, a reduced sensitivity to empathy. Do you understand what that means? It means they do not flinch while others hesitate. They do not bleed guilt while others drown in it. This doesn't make them monsters. It makes them effective. It allows them to fire someone without regret, betray alliances without remorse, and take risks others can't stomach. And here's the irony. Society punishes cruelty, but rewards results. So long as you win, people forget how you played. But now comes the turning point, the unraveling, because while this predator mindset grants ascension, it also builds an unstable throne. You see, ruthlessness creates enemies faster than it creates allies. Those who rule by fear eventually become prisoners of paranoia. Ask any tyrant, if you can find one still alive. Consider the fall of Enron, of Julius Caesar, of every warlord who believed he was untouchable. The very traits that bring victory: cold calculation, emotional detachment, a disregard for consequence, also blind the ruthless to the limits of their own power. They begin to believe they are gods, and then they bleed. This is the paradox of the predator. Their strength propels them to the top, but their lack of wisdom ensures they cannot stay there. Because power is not merely about taking, it is about building structures, systems, legacies, and that requires something predators often lack: vision beyond themselves. So what then is the alternative? Must we become either prey or predator? Must we either sacrifice our soul or die with it intact? Nietzsche's answer was not binary. It was transcendent. Enter the Übermensch, not a predator, not prey, but something entirely beyond both. Where the ruthless destroy, the Übermensch creates. Where the weak submit, the Übermensch transforms. He is not bound by inherited morality, but neither is he enslaved by his own ambition. He is free, not because the world grants him freedom, but because he takes responsibility for defining his own values, forging his own path, and becoming his own judge. This is not a philosophy of ego. It is a philosophy of self-overcoming, and it is far rarer than you think, because most people would rather inherit beliefs than create them. Most would rather be safe than sovereign. Most are terrified of freedom, because true freedom demands total accountability, and nothing terrifies the average human more than being responsible for their own destiny. So the world continues to be ruled by the cold and calculated, while the kind and hopeful wait in vain for a justice that never comes. But here's the bitter medicine. Fairness is not a law of the universe. It is a story you were told so you would sleep better at night. Fairness does not elevate the good. It pacifies them. It tells them to wait, to hope, to be patient. Meanwhile, those who understood from birth that power is a battlefield, they stopped waiting, and they won. But before you fall into despair, understand this: power is not the enemy. Misunderstood power is. When wielded without purpose, power corrupts. But when guided by vision, it elevates. This is the path of the Übermensch, not to rule others, but to rule oneself so completely that ruling others becomes unnecessary. Because true influence is not built on dominance. It is built on indispensability. When you create something, an idea, a product, a philosophy, a following that others need, you rise above the game. You are not a pawn, not even a king. You are the board on which they all play. Now ask yourself, in this world of predators and prey, which are you? And more dangerously, what could you become if you stopped waiting for the world to be fair? You see, we've peeled back the skin. We've seen the muscle, the bone, the dark mechanisms of ambition and power. But we're not done. Number not yet. There is still one truth left to face, the one behind the final curtain. What is power, really? Is it evil, or is it simply the last form of truth left in a decaying world? Picture this. You're standing at the summit of the world, wind biting your face, your hands bloodied from the climb. You look down, not just at the world, but at everything you've sacrificed to reach this height. Relationships, peace, innocence. Now ask yourself, was it worth it? This is the unspoken question that haunts every powerful figure in history. Not how did I rise, but why? And more importantly, what have I become in the process? Because here's the final revelation. Power is not what you think it is. It is not money, influence, or dominance. Those are symptoms. Power, true power, is the ability to define reality. It is the capacity to shape perception, rewrite values, and bend meaning to your will. And almost no one possesses it, because almost no one dares to pursue it honestly. You were taught that power corrupts, that it turns good men into tyrants. But what if that's a lie? What if power doesn't corrupt? It reveals, strips away the masks, the pretense, the civility, and shows the soul in its rawest form. You don't become evil by gaining power. You become visible. And therein lies the most dangerous truth. Power isn't evil. You are, not you alone. All of you. The entire human species, petty, envious, self-righteous, and terrified of what would happen if your inner desires were ever unchained. That's why you fear power. Not because it's cruel, but because it forces you to see your reflection without distortion. This is why so many powerful people fail. They ascend, thinking they can handle the spotlight. But then it burns away their illusions. They see themselves, and they can't stand it. They descend into excess, delusion, or madness. Because to wield power well, you must already be whole. If you seek it to fill a void, it will consume you. If you seek it to escape yourself, it will expose you. Nietzsche understood this better than any philosopher before or after him. He didn't tell you to become powerful. He told you to become worthy of power. That's the difference between the tyrant and the Übermensch. One demands control over others. The other demands transformation of self. The Übermensch does not need morality. He transcends it. He doesn't reject ethics out of spite, but because he creates values instead of borrowing them. He doesn't imitate greatness. He embodies it. While the world fixates on rules, he rewrites the entire game. And yet the tragedy is this: almost no one will ever become him. Not because it's impossible, but because it is unbearable. To live without borrowed beliefs. To face a godless universe and impose meaning with your bare hands. That requires a strength so rare it terrifies civilizations. And so, society continues to demonize power. To keep the masses docile. To ensure the herd never realizes it is a herd. But you, if you've come this far, you're already infected. You've tasted the bitter truth. And now, you must choose. Will you continue living by rules written by people more ruthless than you? Will you keep believing in fairness, hoping that the world will someday reward your obedience? Or will you finally accept that the only justice is the justice you create? The only truth is the one you embody? Let us now destroy the myths once and for all. Is the world fair? Number it never was. Fairness is a pacifier for the weak. Do good people always win? Rarely. Often they suffer quietly, while the cunning rewrite the narrative. Is ruthlessness necessary? Not always. But hesitation is death. Strategic decisiveness is power. Is power evil? Number. It is neutral. The wielder defines its nature. Can morality and power coexist? Yes, but only if morality is forged from strength, not submission. And here lies the final, unbearable truth. You do not need to become a monster to gain power, but you must stop being prey. You must shed your illusions. You must stop asking permission. And above all, you must understand this: no one is coming to save you. That's not hopelessness. That is liberation. You have the tools. You have the capacity. But will you do what is necessary to forge yourself into something unshakable? So I ask you, not as a god, not as a teacher, but as the shadow that lurks behind your ambitions. What will you sacrifice to become untouchable?